Okay, if you're watching the VOD, give me, I don't know, a couple minutes. Let me go get set up. I gotta go pull up the stream so I can monitor chat and so on. Get another beer. Anyway, hello there. Howdy. How goes things? I don't even know how to navigate YouTube. No, I don't want my Google account on my channel. Oh, there's my live video. Let's go ahead and mute that. All right. I think we're about good. Let me get my stuffs set up. Oh yes, I have a whole cheat sheet in front of me. I already unplugged the keyboard after putting it into full screen mode, so I have to go plug the keyboard in again, I guess. It's cool. That's a neat feature. Okay, there we go. Hello there, Dastron. Okay. Oh, wait. It's gone now. I lost it. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, there we go. I, in my infinite wisdom, wrote a whole outline for this video like almost 2 years ago, and I haven't gotten to it since because of who I am as a person or something. I don't know. Insert your favorite Makoism. This is a video that I've been putting off for a long time, mostly because I keep trying to make it perfect. There's a lot of data that is associated with this topic. I have tried to gather as much data as possible, and I keep putting this whole presentation off. Helps if I turn on some lights, huh? How about that? I keep putting this whole presentation off because, you know, oh, I just need to run one more test across all this hardware, you know, gather this value, blah, 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 whatever. It doesn't matter. I keep putting this off. I have been working on this since like 2020, and it's getting ridiculous. As you can see, I have a lot of battery mods. That's not even including the ones that are still, you know, installed in all of the Game Boys I have sitting on my desk. These all have battery mods in them, except for this one with LADAs and one more with LADAs in it. But you get the idea. I have probably more battery mods for the Game Boy Advance than any other person, like just in general. I have battery mods that you can't even buy right now, or ever for that matter. I have lots of data that I want to talk about. So let's talk about that data, shall we? Let me, let's see here. Yeah, man, I tested all of the batteries that I could. I tested these Rayovac high energy batteries. I even got my hands on these Swedish batteries that were purchased in Norway or something like that, I think. I don't know, that makes sense. I got these from HDR, nice guy, even though I didn't ask him for them. He sent them to me anyway. Energizer Ultimate Lithium. I got the IKEA LADAs. I've got the Jugis. I've got Energizer Eco Advanced. Duracell, Energizer Max. Like, I went through as many possible batteries as I could. I even bought Harbor Freight batteries for this stuff. I have put hundreds of dollars of my own money into purchasing batteries and battery mods just to give you guys the best overview of, you know, what makes a good battery in the Game Boy Advance here. So here's how things are going to go. I have a general outline of a lot of the data points that I want to cover. I'm going to try and cover those, and then at the end, I'm going to take any questions that you guys have. Feel free to pop up along the way, you know, if you have any points of clarification, like, oh, you just said some acronym, I don't know what that means, can you clarify? Yeah, sure, that's fine. But any specific questions about, like, you know, anything more technical, let's save to the end so that I'm not so that I don't get ahead of myself in my outline. Like I said, I actually have a whole outline for this nonsense. All right. Let me review chat and then we'll go ahead and get started. Yeah, man, it's New Year for me. I almost whipped out my calculator to show you my date, show you the date, but that doesn't actually work that way. So here's here's my laptop here. Yeah, look at that. 7:13 p.m. I was close. I'm not in the PST time zone, so I was still right when I said 6. But even though we're a little late, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm getting ahead of myself. I am, of course, a little bit inebriated, so you know, all things considered, it is New Year's Eve. So if I get off course, off topic, feel free to rein me in, I guess. Yeah, let me finish my beer and I'll go grab another one and then we'll get started. How you guys doing tonight? Last year of 2023. Alright, sorry about that. I had this whole thing planned out. You'd think I'd thought ahead and, I don't know, grab another beer. But, give me too much credit. Austin Bauer, is there any more GBA micro batteries planned? It's actually just a GB micro. There is no advance in the name. But, yeah. I talked to RGRS about it, and I don't think they realized that they were out of stock. They've already ordered more. They'll be in stock whenever. I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't know if that's like, expect that within the month, within January. Probably before January is over. I don't know. They've ordered more though. Oh, speak of the devil, I gotta go do the Ashenvale raid, alright? Like, Horde's about to hit 100%. Anyway. Let's get this over with. So, I'm gonna start with the TLDW of this video, which, you know, too long, didn't watch, whatever. Don't care about any of the details. Here are my conclusions, all right? If you want the best runtime, you don't care about anything else. Money is no object to you. You don't care about burning through batteries, nothing. You just want, you know, from the time you turn the power on to the time you turn the power off, you want the most time in between switching that switch. Get these. Like, it's actually cracked how much more runtime these Energizer Lithiums have than basically every other battery on my table, including the rechargeable and the one-time use ones. It's like actually absurd. Excuse me. My spreadsheet linked in the description has all of the data that I've actually gathered on all of this stuff. So if you want to skip the stream entirely, just click that spreadsheet, and that has pretty much everything I'm going to be going over anyway. So, but yeah, absolute maximum runtime, these things for sure. Let me pull up my cheat sheet here. Energizer Lithium on a modified Game Boy Advance. I got about 16, almost 17 hours on a pair of these things, whereas like everything else was in the 8 to 11 hour range. So like this is double the battery life of anything else that I have on the table. The problem is they're just kind of pricey, and they're not rechargeable. These are 100% disposable. So once you got these things depleted, they're gone. A 4-pack ran me, let me scroll through my notes. A smarter man might have reviewed his outline so he knew where things were. Whew. Oh, here we go. For an 8-pack of Energizer Lithium, this is obviously not an 8-pack. But an 8-pack runs anywhere from like $13.50 US to about $18. Whereas other batteries, like if you wanted to get something rechargeable, Jugies or Ladas, like even a 4-pack of Ladas, this is like $8 or something like that. These are expensive, but by far the best runtime. Like bar none, there's nothing that even comes close. If you don't care about Energizer Ultimate Lithiums, you don't care about 20-year shelf life, the fact that these won't leak disgusting alkaline acids into your console, and like these are just the bee's knees of batteries. It is what it is. It's not even close the next best battery. I heard a lot of people use these for like the VR controllers too. Just, aside from the absurd battery life, they are a little bit higher voltage. And I know some VR controllers run at a lower frequency when you use rechargeable batteries or something like that. This avoids that because these are nominal 1.6 volts, I believe. They are not too high voltage to use in a Game Boy Advance. In fact, you just pop them in and they work exactly like normal batteries, with one singular exception. Like I said, you'll get like 17 hours of runtime out of these things on a modified Game Boy Advance. And by modified Game Boy Advance, of course, that battery is totally dead. I mean a relatively normal Game Boy Advance with a 9380 screen in it. This is my test bed that I've tested every single battery in. It doesn't matter too much. I'll get into that in just a moment, but the mods that I've tested with, no, I'll get into that in a minute. I've been rambling too long about Energizer Ultimate Lithiums. That is not the only battery that I wanted to bring up. Okay, so like I said, TLDW, you don't care about anything else, you just want the best. Energizer Ultimate Lithium is that for runtime, bar none. There's just no contest. If you don't care about having 17 hours in a single session, which is absurd in my opinion, rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries, I think, are going to be the second best bet. The runtime is not nearly as long as something like the Energizer Ultimate Lithiums, but you could still get, let me pull up my notes here. I tested these ones. Oh, I tested both the white label batteries and the newer greenish label batteries. I don't really know what color that is supposed to be, but they're the same. It's just old packaging versus new packaging. That's all it is. They've just been recolored for, I don't know why IKEA does things, but if you bought the Ladas in this packaging or you bought them in this packaging, you got the same battery. They just look a little bit different. Yeah, here you go. White cells versus this color. They are identical in capacity, charge time, cell resistance, all that nonsense. They're the same. I got less than 10 hours. No, I'm sorry. I got just over 10 hours before the console shut off on a pair of IKEA Ladas. $8 gets you a 4-pack. So the idea is keep one pair in the charger, keep the other pair in your Game Boy, and then anytime your batteries are running low, just swap them out. Take the pair out of the Game Boy, pop them in the charger. Take the pair out of the charger, pop them in the Game Boy. Good to go. $8, best bang for buck, bar none. You do still need a battery charger. I don't know how much the IKEA battery charger runs. IKEA will gladly sell you a battery charger with their batteries. I did not buy IKEA's battery charger of my own. I don't know, it's gonna run you like another $10, but you only ever need the one charger. And then last, but not least, if you insist on having a lithium battery mod so that you just have like a USB Type-C port on your console like this, and you want the safest or the best runtime or whatever out of one of these lithium-ion battery mods, you know, you just want to be able to plug your Game Boy in and charge it and everything works out. Let me find it. I think it's this Game Boy. Yeah. This one right here, best bang for buck. It is what it is. If you guys follow my Twitter, I'm sure you know that I am not on the best terms with retromodding right now, but I'm going to call them as I see them, and retromodding's battery mod, of all of the ones that I've tested, offers the best bang for buck, I think. It is one of the most expensive, but it does offer the most safety features, quality of life features, and just flat out runtime. So if you insist on having a USB Type-C port on your Game Boy with which you can just charge the Game Boy directly, retromodding's is the way to go. In this particular Game Boy, I'm using one of the Funny Playing housings, and with the Funny Playing battery door and the USB Type-C cutout, and like it just works. I don't need to modify anything. Oh, he says it just works as he plugs it in, and it doesn't just work. It doesn't just work with all of my chargers. This one has a little bit more of a shoulder on it, and so it's not deep enough. Unfortunately, the Funny Playing battery doors have a little bit more of a shoulder over the port itself, so you need to use like a low profile cable. I have one of these that I modified that does work totally fine. You'll have to take my word for it. I don't feel like plugging it in. But for everything else, if you're not using the Funny Playing battery doors with this extra little shoulder over the port, it does just work. Or you can just remove the battery door and just charge it that way, and it also just works. Bang for buck, I think retromodding is doing it right. It is one of the most expensive battery mods, but you get what you pay for, and I think they did good with that. Just the balance between general quality of life features. Like, I really like that they have an on and off switch on the battery mod itself. Like, you might be sitting here thinking, what's the point of that? You know, if I turn it off, then the Game Boy doesn't work. Yes, but you also have to keep in mind that unless you're an absolute monster, like, there are going to be downtimes where you aren't playing this console. You know, you maybe put it into storage for a month or two at a time. You switch this thing off, that's... Oops. I had the console switched on and the battery mod switched on. Whatever, you switch this thing off, it's going to preserve the life of the lithium-ion cell a little bit longer than... You know, it's better than nothing. Not to mention, if you have it outside the console, which I do for a lot of these battery mods, it just generally makes it safer. Because you just have these two exposed contacts that you have not lithium-ion battery voltage directly applied to, in some cases, but it is regulated voltage, and there is a current limit on stuff like this, so it's not totally unsafe. But I still like the peace of mind of having an off switch. So I can just switch this off and set it down on my desk and don't have to worry about it shorting on something stupid, you know, like, I don't know, one of my other 20 dozen battery mods, or just any piece of bare metal that I have laying around because of who I am as a person or something like that. I don't know, whatever. You get what I'm saying. So that's my 3 recommendations. Energizer Lithium, IKEA Lotta, Retromodding Battery Mod. You know who you are. You know who this applies to. If you're comfortable having a little bit less runtime, but you want to get the most bang for your buck with dollars, this is by far the best option. If you want to get the most runtime, bar none, this is the best option. And if you want the best balance of the two and, you know, have the convenience of USB recharging, this is also the best option. That being said, if USB recharging is your only requirement, totally lost my train of thought, that was wild. Like you can do that for nickel metal hydride modded consoles too. That's exactly what this thing is. You plug it in, as long as you have nickel metal hydride batteries in the thing, it'll just charge them. I have a video on this. I will add the link to the description after the stream because I totally forgot to do it ahead of time. But yeah, there's just a charge light in my shoulder button and you just plug in USB and it charges nickel metal hydride. Like that's a thing. The trade-off for a mod like this is obviously you have to install it inside the Game Boy. It's a little complicated. It's not nearly as easy as just like dropping one of these things in and calling it a day. Also, it's extremely slow. If these batteries were fully depleted, and they're not, they're fully charged, but if they were fully depleted, this console would have to be plugged in for like 20 hours to fully charge them or something like that, because it's just, there's no way to mitigate the heat properly without active cooling with this method. So the alternative is we just charge it slowly so it doesn't generate as much heat. But it works. So, you know, if that's something you want, that's an option. Let me review chat. Give me just a second. I've been neglecting that. And then I will continue to my next bullet point on my outline. Hang on. Yeah. So I have, related to what I was talking about earlier with the VR controller requirements, that was actually one of my primary interests in these Jugi constant voltage batteries. These things are actually lithium ion batteries on the inside, but they have a voltage regulator to output 1.5 volts constant. So throughout the entire charge of the battery, they're 1.5 volts until they're nearly depleted. Then they drop down to 1.1 volt. If your specific device supports low voltage battery detection, that should trigger the low voltage battery warning, but not all devices do. And unfortunately, one problem with these things in particular is I found that the cells get out of sync. So yes, the low voltage warning does work on each cell individually, but you know, maybe it triggers like 20 minutes later on the second cell or something like that, when the first cell has already completely depleted itself. So in something like a Game Boy Advance in particular, if you're relying on the low voltage battery detection to trigger when your batteries are low, you're probably going to be disappointed, because what most commonly happens is one battery will go into low voltage warning mode, but the other battery is still at 1.5 volts and doesn't trigger the low battery warning on the Game Boy Advance. And then by the time the second battery gets depleted enough to trigger the warning, the first battery is already depleted enough to just shut off entirely. So technically it works, yes, but in my experience, it's less than ideal, unfortunately. But for VR handset, VR controllers, like these things are sick. If I put these things in my VR controllers, they only run at like 60 hertz or something instead of 90 hertz or something like that. I don't know. It's a Samsung HMD Odyssey Plus. You can look it up and yell at me for giving a FUD, but whatever. I don't know. All I know is these things work better in VR controllers than these things. But unfortunately, they're not as good in Game Boys as I originally thought they were. They're still good. There's just trade-offs. A little bit distracted. Sorry. Yes, sorry. I saw someone mention that, and now someone else has mentioned retro modding. I have beef with retro modding because I feel like they took advantage of the retro gaming community to fund their publishing studio, and weren't exactly truthful on what specifically the funds for their Infinity fundraiser were going for. Yes, I understand that they were upfront about using those funds to effectively build their studio, but they also said they were going to use those funds to finish the game, and it's been 2 years and the game is still not finished. So anyway, I don't want to talk about that. That's a discussion for a whole nother thing. Long story short, don't ever give money to a Kickstarter if you want to see a return. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Let me pull up my outline again. Let's move on to my next point so we can wrap this up nice and quick. Nice and quick like. All right. So let's discuss my testing methodology. All of these batteries, from regular batteries to battery mods, whatever, everything was tested in this Game Boy. I have also tested with a specific game, though I can't quite find that specific game right this moment. I did test with... No, I'm sorry, I did not test with one specific game. I tested with several games. I have one charger for the battery mod in this thing, which is totally dead, and then one charger for my laptop, which is dying, and it's becoming a problem. There we go. So this particular console is a stock Game Boy Advance. It is the Celebi limited edition. I have modified Latios ones, but in this particular case, it is the Celebi limited edition. The only mods in this console are the 9380 backlight screen, which is a Funny Playing V2 quote-unquote kit. So there's no OSD, no FRM, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that I use the exact same Game Boy with the exact same power usage requirements for all of these tests. So what I did, I went ahead and booted up this game because I totally forgot what I was doing. But in my testing, what I've done, I maxed out the volume, and then I put a little bit of tape over the speaker so I didn't have to listen to this thing because I've been running all of these tests in my apartment. And then I just let it loop on the title sequence of whatever Pokemon game I'm feeling good about that day. So usually it's a Japanese copy of either Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire, though sometimes it is a copy of Pokemon Emerald, either English or Japanese. Most of the tests were run with a legitimate copy, like this is technically a legitimate copy, it's just on an aftermarket board. But I did not run tests with this cart. I ran tests with original carts just for repeatability's sake. I don't think volume level makes a difference, but that being said, I wanted to rule it out, so I had volume maxed for every single test, and then I just kind of let the console run. Like, it wasn't plugged in, I had a time-lapse running, I aimed the camera at the phone, and I had a stopwatch next to it, and I just looked to see how long from when I turned the console on to when it turned itself off, how long did those batteries last? In a lot of cases, that was about 10 hours. Pretty much everything, with exception to the Energizer Ultimate Lithiums, like, everything ran about 10 hours. Like, it's all pretty negligible in terms of return. But, that being said, the whole point of this, I wanted to point out that I've been testing with the exact same Game Boy. I swapped out the back on this thing because the original back, which I have right here, oops, it crashed as soon as I put it down. The original back has these little tabs in here which interfere with the fitment of most battery mods, and I didn't really want to cut them out of my limited edition shell, even though my limited edition shell is kind of beat up. I don't know. I like it. It's a good patina. I would like to be able to restore this console to its original backplate soon, and my thought process is if I finally publish this stream, I will no longer have to set this thing aside for testing. That was a mistake I made very early testing. I'm like, oh, hey, I need a Game Boy for testing this stuff. And then I grabbed this one, and then I haven't been able to use it for anything since because I've needed to leave it as is for testing. When I did the backlight kit install on this specific Game Boy, and then I reassembled it, I accidentally pinched one of the shoulder button wires to a ground pad. So one of the shoulder buttons, I don't remember which, it's probably L, is permanently shorted to ground. And I have not fixed it throughout the entirety of my testing because I didn't want that button being pressed and then suddenly not being pressed to invalidate any of my results. So I'm looking forward to fixing this thing. That's the point I need to make. But yeah, that's all this is. It is a stock Game Boy aside from the backlit screen. And then all I did was I swapped out, oh yeah, I even wrote on the console L damage, so don't put an easy flash on this thing, otherwise it'll try and update the firmware every time you boot it. Otherwise it works. But yeah, I swapped the back out just so I can put in battery mods without having to modify the back any further. And anyway, this is my test console. I have tested every single battery mod with this. I have not modified it in any way whatsoever as of the first test. It has been the same throughout every single test. All right, let me review my outline here. Lost my train of thought. All right, so one of the notes that I had in my outline that I wanted to cover that I'm just gonna kind of skim over, and you'll have to take my word for it, but I don't like the design of this hardware, and I'm sorry, Helder, if you're watching this. I'm not picking on you in particular. It's just your kit was the closest one to my hand when I started talking about this. This applies to every single GBA battery mod. It does not matter if it's Helder's or Retromodding's or even some generic clone that you picked up off of AliExpress. These terminals right here are always live on most of these. And some of these battery mods don't have any current limits. So if you're keeping these mods outside of the Game Boy itself, and like you just set this down on a table, and these contacts happen to touch a table, and it's metal, I guess not all of us have metal tables, but some of us do. It's a thing, I swear. Yeah, just like that. Like this thing just shorted out and left a mark in my Game Boy Pocket because all I did was touch it, and there's no safety features, there's no current limiting, nothing. It just, you got to be careful with these things, which is why I have most of them in bags so that I don't do exactly what I just did. That was really stupid. I don't recommend doing that, but these ones in particular I think are especially egregious because the battery contacts are lower than the battery itself. So you just set it down on the surface and that's all you got. That one's modified, so it's not exactly the best example, but even the stock ones are the same. It's frustrating. It hasn't been a problem that I know of, but it certainly makes me nervous, especially because I have like 20 of these things. It is what it is. Okay. In my original video outline, I had planned on just straight shorting these contacts out on all of the battery mods and reporting back to see which ones survive, which ones passed my quote-unquote test. But I've decided that that's just silly and pointlessly destructive. and also that I don't want to do it in my home for fire reasons. But we'll discuss that. So all of these TP4056 based battery mods, like this one in particular from Retro Game Repair Shop, from the manufacturer I so affectionately refer to as One Chip. This one from Helder. There's another one from Modmatic that I don't have. I'm sure there's a handful of others as well. There's no protections on them. Like, you short these things out and it's gonna start a fire. Be careful. I recommend unplugging the batteries whenever you can, if your battery mod is equipped with such a feature. This one, where it has an off switch. You know, just switch the thing off. Just switch the thing off, and you'll be fantastic, and it'll be great. But not all of these things are equipped, so for that reason, I don't recommend them at all. They do what they say they do on the tin. They do work. But I don't know. It's not it for me. I think if you're interested in this sort of thing, it's worth spending the extra money on something like this that has those protections built in, so that if you're going to decide to be an idiot, which, let's be realistic, I decide to be an idiot almost every day of my life. And most of the time it works out because my things are relatively idiot proof. These are not idiot proof. Be careful with them. So let's talk about some of the specific data points that I have measured. I think, you know, if you go through my spreadsheet, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Unfortunately, there are some holes in the data, but let's, I don't need any bookmarks, go away, thank you. So you can see I ran through the battery tests on all the alkalines. I'm just kind of going to summarize this section here. I tested Energizer alkalines in my console and got really inconsistent numbers. Like the console ran for 9 hours on a pair, but the low power warning was on for 3 of those hours. Like that's kind of ridiculous. That was the Energizer alkaline. Duracell alkalines were even worse. I got low power lights as early as 1 hour and 21 minutes into the test. And then the console powered off after, you know, not even 7 hours. Like, Duracell was by far the weakest option. If you're looking at alkaline batteries and your choices are Duracell or, not these Energizer lithiums, but like regular Energizer alkalines, Energizer is the way to go. Duracell just sucked in my test. Again, I mentioned this in the description, but I don't think I've mentioned this in the video itself. All of my tests, N equals 1 or 2 or 3 max, but most of them N equals 1. I bought 1 pack of batteries, and this was my result for that 1 pack of batteries. With the stuff like the Duracell and the Energizer alkalines, that pack was an 8-pack, so I got 4 goes out of it. In the case of the Duracells and Energizers specifically, I don't know where I put them, but it was an 8-pack. I ran 6 of the batteries, and then I left the other 2 for this video, but I don't know what I did with them, and I don't know what I would do with them if I found them anyway, so whatever, doesn't matter. I also tested the Rayovac high energy quote batteries. You can see the total runtime here under the power off column was between 8 and 9 hours compared to the Duracell, which was between 7 and 9 hours, and then compared to the Energizer, which was pretty consistently 9 hours. Energizer Lithium, of course, was double that. I have not tested these Swedish Biltema batteries yet. I did run them through the battery charger, but I ran 1 pair of them through the battery charger, though I have not run the batteries through a Game Boy Advance power test. And for the most part, they're basically IKEA Lattes. They test identical to my set of old Lattes. I should hope that the Biltema batteries have a little bit more capacity in them than the old IKEA Lattes, because I ran these head-to-head with 4-year-old cells, and they tested the same. So, in theory, my IKEA Lattes have degraded over these few years, though I don't know how much because I never actually recorded the data. I tested them originally, and I remember them testing at like 2,900 milliamp hours. And now they're testing out like 2,400 milliamp hours. But 2,900 never made sense, so I don't know what the actual capacity is. I think my meter just kind of overestimates them. But doesn't matter. You get the idea. I also went and purchased these Thunderbolt Magnums from Harbor Freight. I figured, you know, it was $7 for a 4-pack. Like, it really didn't break the bank testing these. But if you had preconceptions about Harbor Freight hardware, well, they certainly apply here. These batteries, while they are the same price as the IKEA Lattes, they are out of the box lower capacity at 2,200 milliamp hours versus 2,450. And the tests verified that. Furthermore, I bought a 4-pack of these, and I only have 2 left. Batteries, my A set, this is the B set, my A set, they're dead. They're just gone. I threw them out because they started testing at extremely low capacity. They were holding charge. Nothing. They barely lasted a couple years, and they're dead. I have the other set still, but this is like the control set that I didn't use. The other set that I did use, they're dead and gone. All of my IKEA Lattes, including the original pair that I reskinned with this transparent sleeving, they all still work fine. I cannot say the same about Harbor Freight. If you have them and they work for you, congratulations. But if you're looking for batteries, Harbor Freight is not the place to go. I believe I mentioned this before, but I also tested the white label IKEA Lattes, these things, against that's not green labels. That's green labels. Against the green label IKEA Lattes. They both state 2,450 milliamp hour capacity, and congratulations! They tested identical at between 10 and 10.5 hours until power off for both sets of batteries. I also tested, let me scroll down here. I also tested some of these Jugi batteries, the constant voltage lithium ion batteries. A few years ago, I was recommending these things, especially for modded Game Boy Pockets, because the extra punch of the higher voltage batteries tends to work a little bit better with the lithium ion battery mods. However, the longevity of the batteries themselves, that is to say, if you plan on keeping them multiple years, kinda sucks. Lithium ion batteries have a shelf life of 1 to 3 years, and that has absolutely proven true with these Jugis again, too. I started this test, obviously I have 8 on my desk, but I started this test with 12 Jugis. I have 8 left. Take that how you will. Runtime itself, on a GBA, I did 2 of them. It was over 10 hours. Like, that's fine. That's nothing to be ashamed of. Totally good. I also tested some of the AAAs in a Game Boy Pocket. If you want to read more about that, I'm gonna totally skim over these results because this video is intended to be for Game Boy Advance. Yeah, here we go. And I thought it was interesting that you can get like 10.5 hours out of them in a Game Boy Advance running a Game Boy Color game, but you can get like 13 hours in a Game Boy Color running a Game Boy Color game. I don't know, I thought that was fascinating information. Not really relevant, but a Game Boy Color is more efficient at running Game Boy Color games than a Game Boy Advance is at running Game Boy Color. Anyway, moving on. Let's move on to the lithium-ion battery mods. I think I've sufficiently covered all of the AA options. So yeah, I mean, if you want to use alkalines, just use alkalines. It doesn't matter. If you want to use nickel metal hydrides, I think bang for buck, go with the IKEA Ladas. If you don't have an IKEA in your immediate area, don't ship them, please. It's not worth shipping them. If you can't drive to IKEA, they're good batteries, but they're not worth the cost of shipping. If you're in, outside the US and you have these Biltemas local to you, these seem to be basically the IKEA batteries for the most part. I've had these in the package for probably over a year, and I opened them yesterday and they were still charged enough that I could just plug them in and boot up a Game Boy. Though they were a little bit low. There we go. No, they're fine. I haven't done any extended testing, but so far I have no reason to believe that they perform any different from the Ladas. Okay. Lithium ion. Let's talk that. So I tested a lot of different lithium ion battery mods, and unfortunately, the more testing I did, the more revisions came out. So with the Helder battery mods specifically, you notice I have the V1.0 hardware version. Is that going to focus? Is that going to focus? You can focus. You can do it. Come on. It's not going to focus. Well, you can take my word for it. That's the V1.0. This is the same case for nearly all of my battery mods. I've had all of these for multiple years at this point, and there have been new versions. So the data that I have might not be explicitly relevant, but here's something I'm willing to gamble on. Even if they've revised the hardware that goes on this board itself, the battery cell itself is likely the same, and the efficiency of the electronics themselves, it's not going to change that much. So if my older version of the battery mod gets you about 10 hours, and the newer version of the battery mod is using the exact same cell, which is the case for some other battery mods like this Helder one, then you'll probably get the exact same battery life even on the newer one. Okay, I saw a question pop up in the stream. I did not read it. Let me go read it. Chat disconnected. Please wait while we try and reconnect you. That's cool. Did that just disconnect? No, I don't know. It says I'm disconnected, but okay. It says I've successfully reconnected. Okay. I have not tested Eneloop Pro batteries. I have heard plenty of rumor of people stating that Eneloop Pro batteries and IKEA Ladas are the same cell, just with a different wrapper. I don't know if I believe that, but just like the Biltema batteries test pretty much the same as the IKEA batteries, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eneloop batteries test pretty much the same as well. For this use case, I think the margin of error is pretty much negligible. So if the Ladas are the cheapest option for you, go with those. If the Biltemas are the cheapest option for you, go with those. If the Eneloop Pros are the cheapest option for you, go with them. Like, I don't believe that they're the same battery, but I believe that they fill the same niche and they will perform basically the same. Just because, quote unquote, Panasonic makes both of them does not mean that they're the identical batteries, But that's a discussion for another time. I don't want to talk about it. I don't have any data on Eneloops nonetheless, so. Fixer, my name is not Andrew, and I have never been to Illinois. No. I've been to Illinois once last year, but I've certainly never lived in Illinois. I've not tried any EBL batteries, but I really think there's like Panasonic in the nickel metal hydride battery space, and then like every other brand, and if you just buy something from Panasonic, you'll be happy. And I'm pretty sure Biltema, Eneloop, and Ladas are all manufactured by Panasonic. I mean, if nothing else, the specs on them are literally identical. Like, how else does that happen if they're whatever? Doesn't matter. You know what? I've been to Illinois, and I certainly agree with that statement. Illinois kind of sucks. Like, I think I mean, this is obviously a skill issue, but it's still frustrating that I got charged the same toll 3 separate times just because I made a wrong turn. Like the same toll 3 separate times within 20 minutes because I made the wrong turn. Like that's my impression of Illinois, and I don't care for it. But that's irrelevant. Okay, let's not discuss that. Okay. So on my original retro modding battery pack here, this is the USB-C V1.0 version, which they don't sell anymore. This has a smaller battery cell. I think it's like 1300 milliamp hours or something to that sort. The newer retro modding battery packs all come with a larger cell that has a little bit more capacity. Like, for example, this one is in a 1700 milliamp hour. Pretty sure this one was 1300. If you have one of these, it's certainly fine, but the capacity, excuse me, the capacity is going to be kind of lacking. Granted, if you have one of these, you've also probably got several years on your battery, so maybe it's time for a new battery anyway. You can just grab whatever battery that physically fits it. It doesn't have to be this specific one, especially because this version did not use battery connectors. You just chop that connector off and solder it on, and Bob Jaunty. If you've got one of these, it's a perfectly good mod. It's just a little bit low on capacity. I don't recommend replacing it, but I do recommend upgrading it. If you've got any of the Retro 6 battery mods here, like, let's open this bad boy up. Like this super old Clean Juice here that has a separate module for low power warnings, or a slightly newer one that is also modified, funny coincidence that, so that it doesn't just drain when you have the console not powered up. Let's see how worthwhile that is. And of course it's dead. That's not fair though. I've had a lot of these things in storage for over a year. I don't expect any lithium ion battery to hold a charge for over a year. I'm sure it just works if I power it on now though, yeah. Oop. Oh. Jesus. Okay, yeah, see, it's fine. Just need a little kickstart there. Yeah, if you have any of these Retro 6 battery mods and like it's working for you, like, I guess congratulations, but I certainly don't recommend buying them. Again, the retro modding one was my pick. It's frustrating that nearly every single revision of this battery mod has had some sort of like glaring issue out there. This one that I had to modify so that it didn't just die if I'm not using it. That's silly. Regardless of what you think of them, that's just a bad mod. If I'm buying a battery mod like this, like that's intended to just be drop in, I want it to actually be drop in. I don't want to have to modify it. And I hear they don't sell these things anymore anyway, so I guess that's kind of a moot point, but whatever. You get the idea. I'm just gonna skim the rest of my notes here because I've already lost my place and who gives a shit. There are also these sorts of things available on AliExpress that are, as far as I can tell, cloned Retro 6 battery mods, but They couldn't just do a one-to-one copy. They, of course, made a few changes. And so while these do technically work, is that going to work? Yeah, there we go. They work. Sometimes you just kind of got to finagle them into place. Wow. Unlike the actual Retro 6 battery, this one just started right up and it's been in storage the same amount of time. I don't like the clone. Like, you can ask anyone. You know my opinion of the company that makes this is not very high. My opinion of the cloners that make this stuff is even lower. Like, they made some modifications to the hardware to make it a little bit cheaper. And yes, technically it does work. You can see I've got it plugged in, it's charging, the console's booting, everything's happy shiny. The problem is the low voltage battery cutoff on these things is not configured. So at the very least, on the Retro 6 battery mod, when you drain your battery, like when you have this installed in your console and you play your console until it shuts off on its own, the internal battery voltage of the lithium-ion cell is still... Let's check my notes before I say something stupid. Retro 6... there's no transient power drain. Internal voltage cutoff is 3 volts. You can see I noted that right there. That means when the console drains low enough that it just shuts off on its own, the internal lithium-ion battery voltage is going to be about 3 volts. That's a little bit lower than I'd like, but that's certainly not too low. For comparison, the lithium-ion voltage battery low voltage shutdown of something like a Game Boy Advance SP is 3.4 volts. A Game Boy Micro is 3.3 volts. But Nintendo intentionally set their consoles a little bit higher because the longer a battery spends at the low voltage range of its life, the more wear and tear it's going to take. So Nintendo figured by setting the low voltage cutoff relatively high, their batteries aren't going to spend as much time in that low voltage range. Whereas something like the Clean Juice or these modding battery packs, they're set a little bit lower because they expect you to be an adult about it and charge it when it dies. So that being said, with every single one of these battery mods that I have on my desk, if you just charge it when you're done playing your console, they're totally fine. Like, yes, I still stand by the retro modding one being the best one of the group. But if you don't want to spend the $50 on this and instead spend the $25 or whatever on the Funny Playing one, you know, you just charge it when you're done using it, and you're going to mitigate nearly all of the safety and quality of life features that the retro modding battery has. That being said, I still really like that the retro modding battery forces you, like it holds your hand for you. It doesn't let you do stupid things. Whereas something like this one chip battery mod from One Chip, there's no hand holding on it whatsoever. Like, you can dead short it if you want and overheat it, and it'll cook itself, and it's gonna smile at you the whole time while it's doing it. The retro modding one, if you try shorting this thing out, the overcurrent protection on the main voltage regulator is going to trigger and then shut the whole thing down. That sort of thing. I like that. But there's also just an off switch if you want to switch it off and not have to deal with that. So that's nice. I like it. Oh no! My internet! Am I still connected? My chat's down. My Discord is spinning. Ugh. My laptop says there's no network connection. What the frig is going on? I don't know if this died. I'm gonna give it a couple minutes to reconnect itself, and in the meantime, I'm gonna go use the restroom. I'm sorry, but impromptu break. Did it reconnect? I think it reconnected. Am I still live? Someone help me out here. Because, like, I have the stream up on my desktop computer, and it tells me chat's disconnected. My Discord's not loading. But I can also still see the video footage, so I don't know what's going on. Oh, Discord just reconnected itself. Okay, I think I'm still live. I'm sorry about that, guys. I don't know if you heard me announce that I was walking away because I noticed that it disconnected. Let me actually review chat so that I can stop putting my own foot in my mouth. No, see, that's the thing. Like, I can see chat messages coming in. It just tells me chat is disconnected. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Yeah, I'm using my phone for streaming, so if my home internet comes out, it should fall back to mobile data. But that doesn't, like, that's I work in IT, so the word should is something that you treat with a grain of salt. If you're relying on something that should work, chances are pretty freaking solid that it's not going to work at some point. So, yes, it should fall back to data. I don't know if it's doing that. Oh my god, you guys heard me use the bathroom? Like, that's all the way across the room. All the way across the house. That makes me a little self-conscious now. I'm a bachelor, so I don't even close the doors. I'm gonna have to start closing doors. I don't know. I'm gonna give it a minute and let it. What the hell? My phone was just totally locked up, asking me if I want to keep trying Wi-Fi. Yeah, sorry. I'm gonna give it another minute and before I get back on my bullshit. We'll just chill. I think it's working, but let me give it a minute to get caught up. Okay. If you see my thumbs up, then I think we're good. I don't see my thumbs up on my stream yet. It's like a minute behind or some shit. Let me refresh that. Hang on. Okay, is it working now? Let me see. Okay, it's working. It fixed itself. It works itself out. I'm disappointed that happened, but glad that it fixed itself without me having to intervene. Like, this BS happened yesterday, and I spent like half an hour down this DNS rabbit hole. Like, why is DNS not working? I specifically set up DNS so that I wouldn't have to deal with my ISP's bullshit. And then I remembered that I flashed OpenWRT to my router and then never set up DNS on my OpenWRT setup. So I didn't, but then it also wasn't my problem because DNS just went down on my ISP. So I just had to wait for them to fix it, and then it fixed itself. And anyway, that's besides the point. Let's get back to Game Boys. How about? Let me review chat. There's been a lot of chat. Fixer Retro 6 never actually replaced my screen board because I never reached out to them and asked them to replace it. They know that I have purchased one because they have my info from the invoice. But what they don't know is that I am Mako. And so they just haven't sent one. They have my information on file, but they don't know that my information is Mako, if that makes sense. Like I didn't tell them I was Mako when I was buying. I don't ever tell anyone I'm Mako when I'm buying shit. You're right. They should have recalled it, but they didn't. And they decided that the best way to handle customer service on their clean screen nonsense is to just do nothing unless the customer complains, which I think is absolutely the wrong move. But here we are. I have defective screen kits. I have defective battery kits. They have replaced nothing. But to be fair, I have also not asked them to replace anything. I am confident that if I were to reach out to them, they would replace my hardware. But I think it's a problem that I have to even reach out to them in the first place to replace defective hardware that they shipped me. Like they should just send hardware that's not defective. Like that's all there is to it. Anyway, okay, sorry. Let me actually review. Oh, it's never DNS, except it's always DNS. Anyway. You know, the company I work for, I'm on the team that manages DNS, and the amount of times that something breaks DNS related, it's shocking. Like, it's never actually our fault. It's just DNS isn't working on that particular device for whatever reason. So, yeah, sorry, I'm projecting a little, but whatever. That doesn't matter. No, I mean, like for the Retro 6 stuff, obviously Mako's not my legal name. I don't use that on anything I purchase. The only thing I use that name on besides YouTube and Discord is World of Warcraft, and I don't think Retro 6 bases their order system on World of Warcraft character names, so I think we're okay. Okay, sorry about that. I have totally lost my train of thought. I blame my wonderful internet service provider for whatever the hell just happened. But I think we're back. Let's see if this thing wakes up. Oh yeah. I don't even remember where I was. Okay, script. We're gonna go off script. Let's make a that's a weird noise. I should put my beer somewhere I'm not likely to spill it. Okay. Let's make a tier chart, yeah? This Game Boy. If you're interested in battery mods, don't buy the clones. I don't care if you want to stick it to company. These are just bad. Like the low voltage cutoff on these things is kind of absurd. Sure, I guess they do technically work the way they say that they do. But the low voltage cutoff is bad. I would not expect any reasonable lifespan out of these lithium ion battery cells. It's not worth messing with. If you really want one of these things, again, retromodding is the way to go, I think. It's also just not worth messing with any of these basic battery mods. like Helders. I'm not picking on you in particular, Helder, if you're watching this. I just think that your battery mod kind of sucks, and that you can do better, and that you should do better. But there's no protections in these things. They're horribly inefficient. They kind of suck. Like I said, there's no overcurrent protection. A fuse would be a nice to have, but they didn't do that. This is literally just battery voltage through a diode into the positive battery terminal. It's not good. I'm sorry, but if you bought one of these, you made a poor decision. The Retro Game Repair Shop battery mod as well from one chip. It's basically the same as Helder's mod, just differently colored. I'm sorry, but these things suck too. One of my favorite features of these things, let me go ahead and plug this in here. You can see if I plug this in, it doesn't charge because these things don't even PD override here. So I switch that on and I can still charge it with my Type-C host. You can see it's 5 volts, 500 milliamps. Doesn't matter. But anyway, my favorite feature of these things, if you notice, this red wire goes into this terminal that is labeled battery minus, and this black wire goes into this terminal that is named battery plus. And of course, all of the labels are upside down because screw you, that's why. The labels are correct. The battery colors are not. So if you have one of these battery mods and you want to modify it for use in something else, like, hey, you know what? I don't judge. Like, it's a thing and it works, and you know, go for it if that's what you want to do. But just be cognizant of that. Check it with a multimeter if you have one of these and want to use it for that. But same thing. There's no protections on this thing. It's not going to hold your hand. If you want to do stupid shit, it's going to let you do stupid shit. And it's going to laugh while you burn your house down if you decide to do stupid shit. That being said, if you just stick it in your Game Boy and then leave it there and then do nothing else with it aside from just play your Game Boy, like it's going to work just fine. You're realistically not going to have any issues. Same thing with Helder's battery mod. But it's just, it's not a good choice. If you don't already have one, I don't recommend getting one. I have dozens of these things. There's so many of them. I don't understand why I have so many of them, but I do. And like, they're all the same. I'll give them this. They did rate the batteries appropriately. I can't peel this one off. That one's stuck down really good askew because screw me, that's why. I don't remember if these are 1300 or 1500 milliamp hour batteries, but in my testing, they did. Yeah. Almost got it. Yeah, 1500. That's what they are. These did actually test at about 1500 milliamp hours. So the capacity is pretty accurate. The runtime with these things, let's assert, one chip, 1500 milliamp hour. I got on the first test like 8.5 hours, but then every test after that I got like a little over 10 hours. There's no low voltage power off warning. So like when your battery gets low, it just kind of shuts off with no warning, and that kind of sucks. But it's still 10 hours. Like it still works. Same thing with the Helder battery mod. Though I did not get nearly as much runtime out of those at between about 7 and 8 hours. But these specific Helder battery mods have 1300 milliamp hour batteries. I believe he's shipping newer ones with his current mods, but yeah. I guess that just leaves retromodding at that point, and you guys already know my feelings on the retromodding one. I suppose it is worth a honorable mention. Helder does sell this accessory with his battery mod, which I actually really like. You just take your battery cover and insert it in here, and this is a bad example because this one already has the hole cut in it. but you just insert it in there and then you can drill out the USB Type-C port and then file it out nice and smooth. I've made similar jigs for like Game Boy Color battery mods and such, but if I'm being honest, I think Helder probably inspired me to make those things. I like this. This is a neat touch. Good job with this, but other battery mods like the Clean Juice, I think they just offer pre-trimmed battery doors, so you can just buy a battery door with the hole already cut into it. The only downside to that is not all battery doors fit on all makes and models of Game Boy equally. Fits totally fine on this funny playing shell Game Boy, but where's my purple one? Here's my purple one. Oh, and of course it fits totally fine on this one. I don't actually know where this battery cover is from, but this is an OEM shell, and sometimes the aftermarket battery covers just don't fit great. Bad example, because everything's fitting totally fine on this one, but I guess you'll just have to take my word for it. I like the option of just cutting a hole in my battery cover better, because that is for sure going to match, as opposed to like buying a purple only to find out it's a different color purple. This is obviously an extreme example, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. I like this option. I like this option too, but I like this option more. Okay. And let me review my outline again. Oh yeah, see, in my outline I put all the prices and shipping and stuff, and like I didn't actually discuss this in the video because I don't even know where it is at this point, but I made a DIY version of this battery mod, which has the exact same hardware as the Helder version. I just kind of wanted to prove a point, and then I don't even know where that hardware is. Like originally it was in this console, but I swapped it out with one of yet another battery mod brand. Anyway, you can make a battery mod very easily by buying like a TP4056 module. There it is. Like one of these things, you just hook your battery up to it, you put a diode on the output, you hook this up to the input of the Game Boy Advance power, and then like it just kind of works, and then you have a USB Type-C port. That's effectively all these things are. It's very easy to DIY, very cheap. I paid about 25 bucks a pop for the Helder battery versions, but you can do it yourself for much less than that. The biggest portion of the cost is the battery cell itself. It's one of those things like you get what you pay for. If you buy something generic off of AliExpress and you buy the lowest priced cell, chances are pretty good you're only going to get like 6 months to a year out of it, but it will work for you, you know, that sort of thing. But again, exact same caveats I've already discussed, in that there's no protections, there's no hand holding. You have to manage it yourself because it's not going to manage itself. That sort of thing. Whereas like I like the retro modding ones because they do all of the hand holding for you. What else is there? I really liked the price on the Retro 6 battery mods compared to, like, it was effectively the same price as the Helder battery mod, and, like, if the choice is between the Retro 6 one and the Helder battery mod, like, you get so much more bang for your buck out of the Helder, or out of the Retro 6 battery mod for $2 more. Of course, these are old prices. I don't... No internet, are you kidding me? I'm clearly online. I'm streaming. I clearly have a network connection. What's going on here? Come on. well, this is why you don't use Chrome OS. This is it's not finding my Wi-Fi network, which my ISP has nothing to do with. But we can thank Google for this nonsense. But whatever. You can look it up on your own time, I guess, because that's not going to work for me. What else did I have? Yeah, the retro modding one was by far the most expensive. I like the Jugies for what they offer. Oh, I suppose this is a good time to mention that. If you like the idea of lithium-ion battery, constant voltage batteries, Jugi is not the only name in the market. There are also, totally forgot the name, even though it was just up on my screen here, 10 volts. What? Do I not? Are they in the nickel metal hydride battery doors? No. I have 8 of these suckers, and somehow I can't find a single one of them. I bet they're in my pocket. Nope. Wild. Ugh. Ah, there's one in my mouse. Haha. These things. Jugies are generally the better buy because compared to 10 volts, Jugies are both higher capacity and have a low voltage cutoff, which the 10 volts don't. But these are also a little bit cheaper and a little bit easier to get in a lot of cases. I like it in my mouse, but you know, same thing. Work great in VR controllers, not necessarily in Game Boys though. If you want to use 10 volts, like I said, there is no low voltage battery warning, but similarly with the Jugies, unless both batteries hit low voltage at the same time, there's also no low voltage battery warning, so at least in the Game Boy. Oh, wait, oh my god, I totally missed this drawer. I bet this has all my 10 volts in it. Yes, it does. Yeah. These things are fantastic for a Game Boy Pocket. Like, really. But also, on occasion, they do something like this, and you don't want that. That's not good. I don't know if this is something I should even be getting on my hands, so I'm gonna set that down. And I'm gonna go excuse myself while I wash my hands, just in case. Because I have no idea what that liquid is. All right. Nah, that's not the first battery that's done that to me. I mentioned a few minutes ago that I started this test with 12 Jugies and I'm ending it with 8. Yeah, this is just something that I just washed my hands. I need to not touch this stuff right now. This is just something that happens to these batteries as they age. It's kind of like the alkaline batteries spilling their guts all over the inside of consoles, except these batteries are only a few years old and they're supposed to be rechargeable. And once they lose containment like that, I don't bother dealing with them anymore. I don't know what that is, and I don't want to find out the hard way that it's not compatible with life or something like that. But anyway, all right, what else we got in here? Well, that's about it as far as my outline goes. So yeah, I guess I'll just sum up all the bullshit I've been kind of mumbling about for the last hour. And And I'm just going to repeat what I said in the beginning, which is if you want most runtime, Energizer Lithiums are by far the best option. Like, this is basically double the competition. If you insist on having a easy USB-C type charge port, you can do a nickel metal hydride battery charger mod, or you can grab one of these retromodding battery mods, or you just deal with an external charger and use rechargeable nickel metal hydrides for the most bang for your buck. I believe the only thing I haven't really covered is this thing that I've had set on my desk. This is not a battery mod, but I set it aside because I thought it was interesting nonetheless. It is a power adapter. So it's like that not battery mod for Game Boy Advance that Nintendo made that uses a proprietary connector, except it uses USB Type-C instead. So you plug your thing in. Of course, this doesn't support PD, so it will override that. And then it just has a voltage regulator for like 3.3 volts or whatever. Let me get a Game Boy. And then you can just power it externally. That's all it is. It's not actually a battery mod. It works. It's pretty neat for what it is, but not a battery mod. Only other thing, honorable mention, the Fresh Charge from Zekfu is a fantastic battery mod. The downside is that unless you have an in with Zekfu, you're probably not getting one of these. But if you do have an in with Zekfu, these are fantastic battery mods. I am very pleased with the performance of this one in my Game Boy Advance here. This is an AGS 101 modded console, hence the fantastic brightness levels, as you can tell. But because it's an AGS 101 modded console, I get like 20 hours of battery life out of this stupid thing. It's kind of great. Versus like 10 with everything else, especially with this battery mod. Supports simultaneous play and charge, and that's all nice and dandy. But anyway, for funsies, I suppose I can also show off these two, which are prototype hardwares. So I have a prototype battery mod from Funny Playing. You can see they got a little inspired by retro modding, given the similar layout and feature set, including the charge key and whatnot. Funny Playing did not go with this design. I don't know why. It seems to work great. I kind of like it. It has a nice low battery warning that they didn't include on the retail version, but it's prototype. It's in the spreadsheet if you want to know the numbers on it. It uses the same battery cell as the retail version, though the actual regulator and specific features are different. Retromodding, on the other hand, this is a prototype, but it is identical to the retail version, just a different color is all. Black and gold versus green and silver, but it does work. And like I said, actually, I don't know if I said this. This whole project started out when Retromodding reached out to me years ago, and they said, hey, we notice Retro 6 is saying a lot of things about their battery mod. Would you be willing to test ours against theirs, and so on? And Retromodding mentioned that they would certainly reimburse me for all of my costs for something like that. I did not take them up on that, in case you're wondering. But that was the offer on the table. I decided I'm not going to take Retromodding's money for this, and instead I'm just going to test all of them the same way that I would test them normally, I guess. But they did offer, so that's nice of them. Anyway, oh, I suppose while I'm here, this battery cover came with the prototype Funny Playing battery charge mod. What's neat about this is not actually plastic injection molded. This is 3D printed, but it's the same model that they ended up plastic injection molding. So I don't know. It's neat to have, even though it's not really functional. But anyway. Oh, it's dead, those sons of guns. Or did I have it switched on? No, it's just dead. It's annoying when you leave a battery mod or something like this inside of a console, and then next time you go to play it, it's just totally dead. But this supports simultaneous play and charge, so that's nice. Okay. I think that's about all I had prepared. I had some more stuff talking about simultaneous play and charge and the rules surrounding that and what I was testing for, but I kind of don't really care anymore, so there's that. Anyway, did you guys have any questions? I hope this long stream of me rambling was actually helpful. Oh, I'm ignoring chat again. Let me catch up. I'm sorry. Really good at that. Okay. That's a good question, Rux underscore. I had in my spreadsheet. Yeah, just woke up. Nice. I have to unlock it. It's nice. I have in my spreadsheet, if you go through it, there is a line item for just about every battery mod that mentions transient power drain. So what the transient power drain is like, I don't know. Think of a PSP. So the batteries in PSPs suck, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you actually use the PSP, but if you fully charge it and just like set it down on your desk and just stare at it, it's not even on, it's just there. A week later, it's going to be dead anyway because there's a microcontroller in the battery and it has transient power drain, which means the power is on even when the console is not. The only battery mod that I've tested, the only battery mod, and this is including stuff like Jugies, the only battery mod that had any measurable transient power drain was this one. I have a video on fixing that if you're interested, but also, if you have one of these, just return it to the seller, realistically. The Funny Playing battery mod specifically does not have any transient power drain that I was able to measure. Bert, I suppose it's worth looking at. Is it not in here? Oh, here it is. Oh, one of the things I really didn't like about Funny Playing, I really should have mentioned this. I'm sorry, I just kind of skimmed through my notes and didn't even notice this. The internal voltage cutoff of the lithium ion battery, like, there isn't one. The Funny Playing battery mod, the prototype version that I tested had a low voltage cutoff. The retail version that they are currently selling, this one, does not have a low voltage battery cutoff. It relies on the DW01 inside the battery management board itself to cut off the charge voltage. It's kind of dumb. If you have any of these battery mods, aside from the retromodding one, oops, that, okay. I don't know how I managed that one. If you have any of these battery mods, you know, just charge it when you're done playing. It doesn't matter if the battery's dead or not. Just charge it when you're done playing, and you're gonna have a better time. Retromodding included, though you don't have to with the retromodding. I highly recommend it with every other battery mod. Just charge it when you're done playing. If you only play for 2 hours, just plug it in, charge it when you're done. These batteries have no memory. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's lithium ion. It doesn't matter if it's nickel metal hydride. There's no memory. You just charge it when you're done playing, and it's fine, and you'll have a much better time. That's always been how I look at Game Boy run times. Is like, as long as it's long enough to last you through a single session, nothing beyond that matters. If you're playing your console for more than like 6 to 8 hours at a time, I don't necessarily want to say that's you problem, because that doesn't sound like a problem. That sounds awesome. But you know what I mean. Like, if you're one of those people who finds themselves in situations like that where they can just sit down and play Game Boy for like 6 to 8 hours, maybe you should. You're unique, is all I'm saying. You've got unique situations. Ooh. I like the nickel metal hydride options over these battery mods, because like, these are unarmored lithium ion cells. This one in particular actually is at the end of its life. And I should recycle this cell if I can get it out of this bag. That just goes to show you that these things do not last that long in storage. This thing is nice and puffy and of course sticky on the bottom, but it is bulged out on every side. You can see that by the way it rocks back and forth, even though it's glued to the motherboard. But yeah, this is not good. If your battery mod looks like this, replace the battery cell. These things are all pretty standard. A 103048 cell will do you good. This one in particular is from Retro Game Repair Shop, but you could just type that number into AliExpress or eBay or something, and you'll find a generic cell. I gotta shout out Retro Game Repair Shop here, because they've sourced reasonably high quality battery cells that, well, let me put it this way. This cell and this cell are the same age. This cell is dead. This cell is still perfectly fine. So take that how you will. But yeah, you can just buy the generic ones as long as you're okay with manually keeping an eye on their health and replacing them as necessary. Ah! I don't know why I have those. Okay. Let me review chat. Happy New Year, Super Lucero. Nickel metal hydride charger recommendations. I don't have anything in particular to recommend. I have a reasonably decent charger, but I trust my charger to charge the batteries. I trust my charger to discharge batteries. I trust my charger when it says it's going to put a battery through a cycle. What I don't trust is the value that my charger gives me. So my charger will tell me, yeah, your 2450 milliamp hour IKEA Latas have 2900 milliamp hours of capacity. Yeah, it's totally fine. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It just works. I don't trust that for my charger. My charger does that shit, and I ain't about that life. So I'm not going to recommend that one. But I will say IKEA sells a perfectly cromulent charger that you can use with their batteries. Yeah, I don't know. I meant to bring up the funny playing battery mod a little bit more than I have, especially since it's very clearly the very last battery mod that I have tested in my modified Game Boy here. By the way, this little copper slug that they tell you should apply, it does nothing. I don't I don't understand why they include it. I don't understand why they even bother. Like, the component that generates heat is right here. This is nowhere near the component that generates heat. When you have this thing plugged into charge, it is... Oh, I guess it's the same component. They used an all-in-one chip. Either way, like, this does nothing. I've used an actual thermal camera with this stuff, and it does nothing. Here, let's... Yep. I'm not going to throw this thing through a whole charge cycle, but... Oops. Look at that. We got thermals here. I got it aimed right at the Game Boy. You can see numbers are all over the place because this is all reflective surfaces. But if I plug this into charge, and I'm going to plug it into charge, you can see it's pulling 3 watts. If I leave this aimed at the thing long enough, you can see that the hotspot is nowhere near where the actual heatsink is, but right where I pointed out, right at that component there. I've measured this thing in use and in charging, in use and charging. So in use, then charging, then in use while charging. And with or without this copper slug here, like, it doesn't change any of the performance characteristics whatsoever. So sure, I guess it's neat. It doesn't even get hot enough that you need to sink heat away from it. Like, I think I saw it max out at like 40 degrees Celsius. I don't know. Obviously it's not getting anywhere near that right now, but yeah, max almost 30 degrees. I could put my finger on it and I can feel that it's slightly warmer than the rest of the console, but it's just... I don't know what Funny Playing was doing, man. It, admittedly, yeah, it is tall enough that you put the battery door on this thing, it is gonna flatten out, but like, that slug doesn't hit the battery door anyway, and if it does, your battery wasn't properly installed. So I don't know. It doesn't do anything really. I don't understand. Yeah, I don't know what Funny Playing was doing. It's not a bad battery mod. I just think the prototype they sent me was better. And even still, retromoddings is better than that. So I don't know. Oh, you know what? I posted on X or Twitter before doing this stream, in case you guys had any questions that you wanted me to answer. I didn't get a lot of replies, but one of them I did get was regarding the audio coming out of Game Boy Advance. And I don't know that there's any good solutions to this. I don't want to call it a problem, because I don't think it's necessarily a problem. I think the Game Boy console in general was designed to a spec, and that spec did just, it did not include high quality audio. That is to say, this is a children's toy, and there's almost nothing you can do to get good quality audio out of them. If like that is your singular focus in life, all you want is good quality audio, you're not going to get it out of a Game Boy. It doesn't matter if you're using nickel metal hydride batteries or a battery mod. It's just, these things were not designed to output high fidelity audio, and they just don't, and there's not a single thing that you can do to them to fix that. I'm sure there are mitigations. I'm sure you can work around the issue somewhat. You can make it slightly better. I know that certain models of hardware perform better than other models of hardware. You know, maybe they have less noisy power management, integrated circuits, stuff like that. But it's a kid's toy. And I'm kind of on Nintendo's side with this. Like, if I was a parent in the year 1998 and I was buying a Game Boy for my child, I would absolutely buy the one that had almost no volume. Like, if my choices were, you know, an amplified unit or a quiet unit, I would go with the quiet unit. I wouldn't want to have to listen to my kid's device making annoying ass noises. Like, yeah, I'm with Nintendo on this one. They were never designed for quality in the first place, and unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that. Like, if you want to fix the audio, you're gonna have to go back in time and like kidnap Nintendo's engineers and like tell them to design in high quality audio to the silicon, because there's no bypass. There's nothing. It's like getting digital video out of an NES. You can't unless you replace the PPU. It's the same thing with a Game Boy. There's just, the audio is not a priority, and there's no way. You can't go back and modify the silicon. It's already printed. It's already done. It is what it is. It sucks. You can go with other options for high quality audio. Jordan, what about Energizer rechargeable batteries? Do you have a specific question regarding them? What do you mean, what about them? I did not explicitly test Energizer rechargeables, but I did. I didn't actually test Duracell rechargeables either, but I used to own a couple pairs of Duracell rechargeables, and or were they Energizer? I don't remember. I think they were Duracell because they looked exactly like regular Duracells, but they had like a green sleeve or something. I don't know. They're fine, but like the IKEA batteries were so much higher capacity that it's not even funny. Like, for less money, you get twice as much capacity out of these things. It was kind of ridiculous. I have never modified any Game Boys for chiptunes. So, okay, hang on. Let's circle back to Game Boy Advance audio. I think it's worth bringing up the super fucked up architecture of Game Boys, because it's kind of not very obvious when you just look at it on the surface. So Nintendo designed the original Game Boy for release in like 1989 or some bullshit like that. And then they've made incremental revisions to it over the years. All right, but every single version has had to maintain backwards compatibility. So they made the original spec in 1989, and Game Boys made as late as 2004 were still fully compatible with their original spec. So like they built compromise into the system itself just so that it works and they don't have to deal with it. And like, obviously they made the right call with how well these things sold. But they, like, the original Game Boy probably had the highest quality audio, and then they cost downed the models since then. So when they revised the Game Boy and made the Game Boy Color, it's like effectively just a Game Boy CPU but overclocked. And it still has all this, well, it's not all the same audio hardware, but it's similar enough. And then when they made the Game Boy Advance, they just took the Game Boy CPU and made it the Game Boy Color CPU, integrated it into the silicon, and then made that the audio processor when your games are booted in Game Boy Advance mode. So like, these CPUs are already known for having crappy audio, And like they're the dedicated controller for audio in all of the later Game Boys. So if you want high quality audio out of a Game Boy, you use something that uses an emulated Game Boy Color CPU. And that's how you get high quality audio. I know it's kind of a shitty answer to the question, but it's the best answer I've got. Oh man, did I disconnect again? What's going on here? The timer's still counting down. Yeah, it's... I respect that you know what you want, but this is really one of those circumstances where you're just not going to be happy with original hardware no matter what happens. It's just the hardware was not designed to work the way that you want, and there's no cost-effective way to modify the hardware to work that way. Yeah, it sucks, but I don't know what else to tell you. It's a children's... at the end of the day, these things are children's toys, and they were designed as children's toys, so they have all the problems that come with children's toys. This is not something that I'm interested in testing, but I am certainly interested in the results if someone else does test it. I am curious how the emulated Game Boy Color CPU in something like a Nintendo DS or DS Lite performs to the actual hardware Nintendo Game Boy Color CPU in older consoles versus like a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Micro. I know the Game Boy Micro has the full Game Boy Color CPU in it because otherwise it just wouldn't have sound in any Game Boy Advance games. But it does not have the boot ROM that allows it to boot actual Game Boy Color games. Or at the very least, it's not connected to the cart bus. I was actually working on this with Inside Gadgets a while back. Not in any, like, official, professional manner, but just, like, you know, messing around with it, seeing if we can get it working. But it's possible to crash the Game Boy Micro into Game Boy Color mode. Like, you can get the CPU to switch over. That's not a problem. The problem is, once you get the CPU into Game Boy Color mode and the Game Boy Advance portion of the CPU shuts down, it just no longer has any access to any of the hardware in the device. So, like, it just can't read carts. So, even though you can technically get it into Game Boy Color mode, you can't get it booting Game Boy Color code, which is frustrating, but unfortunately, it's hard-coded in the silicon, and there's no way that I know of to fix that without replacing the silicon. But anyway, yeah. Game Boy Color CPUs are noisy, and Game Boy Color CPUs are responsible for audio generation on Game Boy Advance hardware. So, Game Boy consoles in general are just noisy, and there's nothing you can do about it because that's how the silicon works. And unless you redesign the silicon, or even more better, re-implement the silicon, kind of can't change that. And yes, I do recognize the irony. This thing has a noisy amplifier too, so it makes all the same Game Boy Color noises, but slightly different. How you guys doing? I think I'm about done with I hit most of the points I intended to hit. I certainly forgot one. Like, you know what? Let's just go over this now, and just pretend that this is an earlier part of the stream or something. I don't know. Let's look at it this way. Let's say I have one of these batteries. These things are 2,450 milliamp hours, and they are nominally 1.2 volts. What would you say has higher capacity? One of these batteries with 2,450 milliamp hours, or this battery right here with a nominal voltage of 3.7 volts, but 1,500 milliamp hours? Which one would you say has the higher capacity? All right, what about 2 of these batteries versus this 1 battery? Which one has the higher capacity? This is where our most commonly used units fail us. I need to turn that just in case that was shorting on that. That was sketchy. This one was switched off, so we're probably good. But I had the legs touching opposite, which is super not great. But this one was switched off, so we're probably good. Anyway, this is where wattage comes into play. So I don't know about you guys. I like milliamp hours because it's like the easiest number to quickly look at and go, oh yeah, that's approximately how large this battery is going to last. I can tell you, you know, a 2000 milliamp hour battery on something that draws approximately 100 milliamp hours is, or approximately 100 milliamps, is going to last approximately, what did I say, 2,100 20 hours. You know, that's simple math. It's easy. But this is where wattage comes into play. So we calculate wattage by taking the nominal voltage of my battery, which is 1.2 volts, multiplying that by the capacity in amp hours, not milliamp hours, but amp hours, so 2.450. And that gives us a wattage, a watt hour value of 2.94 for one single battery. Now, if we have 2 of these in series, that would be 5.88 watt hours. Whereas this one is 1.5 amp hours times 3.7 nominal volts at 5.55 watt hours. So in terms of total power capacity, 2 of these is still more than 1 of these, but this is more than one of those. Yes. I just for backwards compatibility, I don't know, that's not the right terminology, but just to be consistent with all of my other videos, whenever I do my power measurements, I always measure in milliamp hours, just because, like I said, I think that's an easier number to digest, but that doesn't tell the whole story. You need to also pay attention to voltage too. And then you can calculate the total volume of the power within a battery. It's not 1-to-1. Because like obviously if I just took this battery and said, look, this is 1500 milliamp hours. This is 2450 milliamp hours. Obviously this one's larger capacity. It's like it doesn't work that way. And unfortunately, some sellers of battery mods for the Game Boy Advance have taken advantage of confusion like that to try and specify, to try and persuade you that their batteries are a little bit higher capacity than anything else. And we can go through the runtimes again if you want, but the longest runtime I measured, not counting the Energizer lithiums, was this Retromodding 2.0 battery pack at 11.5 hours, almost 12 hours in some cases. Everything else was closer to 11 and 10 hours. So anyway, you have the spreadsheet now. The power is all yours. You can browse it upon your leisure and use the information that I've gathered to guide you towards the purchase that is best for you. At the end of the day, despite all of this nonsense that I've just been rambling about for the past hour and a half, almost 2 hours, 71 minutes ago. Is that right? My phone says 119 minutes. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds a little bit more accurate. Despite all of this, like, if you're not actually playing your Game Boy, none of this shit matters. Like, if if this is the difference between you playing your Game Boy and not playing your Game Boy, by all means. But if you're not going to play it anyway, don't waste your money. I don't know about you guys, but like, I clearly have enough Game Boys. I don't need battery mods for all of these things. I have battery mods for all of these things because I tested them all. But like, if you're anything like me and you have a pile of Game Boys, you don't even bother with this shit. You're wasting your money. Oh, you know what? I got one more. Hang on. I got one more. I did actually mean to talk about this one a little bit. This is the machined aluminum. Oh, it's dead. Hey, wait a minute. It's not dead. It just doesn't have batteries. Fuck. Hang on. Let me find the Game Boy that I thought that was. Just kidding. It's this one. This one's also metal, but this one has a battery mod in it. I don't know, if you've got like one of these metal ones that already has the USB-C hole in the door. The Funny Playing kits, of course, I designed this bracket so that it actually lets you install a Funny Playing kit. But the Funny Playing kits work well in these things. They just fit, the port lines up, all is well. But the retrobotting battery pack also works if you want to use that. I think they should all fit at this point. I've not tested all of them. Let's try Helders, huh? Just as a proof of concept here. Yeah, it lines up at least. Console's not turning on. And of course that doesn't clear the housing. I bet this one would though. Yep. Here we go. We'll call it a power adapter. Oh, it's still not working. Oh, there it goes. It's just totally dead. Yeah, I'd hazard a guess to say that any battery mod should work with this. That one's just 100% dead. But I don't know. I kind of lost my steam here. I'm running low on fuel. Does the Funny Playing battery door cover fit with the retromodding battery? The Funny Playing battery door, if I recall correctly, fits with all of the battery mods. Are we asking about retromodding? Yeah. This is the retromodding door, or retromodding battery. That looks like a Funny Playing door. With a normal USB-C connector, kinda. I mean, like, you can see if I hold it there, the blue light is coming on, it is charging. You can see it's pulling 8 watts as it charges. Oh, now I've got a green light instead of a blue light. I don't know what that means. I've forgotten the colors already, but it's not like latched in and connected. It's just kind of wedged and kind of hoping for the best. You'd want a... I kind of hate that this is not a thing. Like, I can't just recommend use somewhere to go buy these, but a low profile USB-C adapter should work. I don't see the light on at all, which is super cool. I don't know what's going on with that, but I wouldn't be surprised if this USB port is just dead at this point. I have done a lot of sketchy things with this laptop. But yeah, if you want to use the retromodding battery with the funny playing battery door, plan on getting a low profile cable to use with it. It technically fits, but it didn't charge with my normal cable. Can you short a battery mod on an aluminum shell? Yes, you can, because I literally did it earlier on the stream with this aluminum shell. This shell is not anodized. You shouldn't be able to do it on an anodized shell, but this shell is not anodized. This one is. You can tell the difference in the finish there. This one it should not short out on. Shouldn't. Don't test that. There's some cool stuff you can do with the aluminum Game Boys, though. That backlight does not look right. I don't know what happened, but it should not be noticeably brighter on the left quarter of the screen. Where's my touch sensor? There it goes. It looks better at higher brightness. It's still weird though. Like, there's still obviously a bright spot. I don't know what that's about. I should probably look into that. Not now though. I don't know. You can do some cool stuff with like internal lithium ion, nickel metal hydride battery chargers. That's what this thing is. I have a battery charger under the metal shielding here, so in theory, if you plug it in without a game inserted, everything should be. Ooh. Maybe I shouldn't plug that in after that pop it just made. Seems fine. Never mind. I don't know. My meter's not on though. There it goes. Yeah, it's not drawing a lot of power. I mean, it could be because I charged these batteries already. But it also could be because whatever just popped is probably not good. Okay, so maybe don't do one of those mods. It worked earlier, I swear. I wonder what that pop was. Let's find out. Why'd you guys let me pile up my desk with so many freaking Game Boys? I'm gonna clear this junk out so I can figure out what just exploded in my Game Boy. Let's idiot check with other batteries first. Well, there you go. So it's technically an option, but you know, since it explodes, I don't recommend it. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions on battery mods or anything else tangentially related, I will try and keep an eye on chat. We have until my phone dies. It is... I don't know how to bring up the overlay in portrait mode. Oh, there it goes. It is at 27%. So we've still probably got an hour. There's my battery charger. The fuse no longer has continuity. I wonder why that just blew up. Well, that's unfortunate. Let's fix it. I should point out that the fuse is, you know, not supposed to just blow up, but because the fuse did just blow up, whatever was wrong, it hopefully protected my system from blowing up with it. Ceramic capacitors, that's not a fuse. High pico, that's definitely not a fuse. Ceramic capacitors in here with the fuses. Fuck. I just bought a bunch of batteries for my smoke alarms. I had batteries. Oops. Fuses. Diode connector. Inductor. Diode. Battery connector. I don't know what that is, but it's not the right form factor, so it's definitely not it. 0 ohm resistor, that's not it. I have parts for this thing. What's going on here? The question is, where did I put them? 0603 500 milliamps. That's what I was looking for. You know, I think I should install a resettable fuse in this specific console, because with how I have the battery charger wired up, it's fused through the system fuse. So a surge when I plug it in could certainly cause this issue. I do not recommend ever soldering within the shell, but you know, if you're confident in your abilities, then go for it, I guess. accidentally lifted my power switch desoldering nut. You know what? It's a little crooked, but it's connected. Okay, let's try that again. Fuck, I don't have a power switch in there. What do I do with it? There it is. All right, so addendum, if you do want to do a nickel metal hydride battery charger, maybe don't run it through the main system fuse, or alternatively replace the main system fuse with a poly fuse and then run it through that. Because that's just a thing that happens on occasion, apparently, so that's super cool. Ta-da! They're gonna pop? It didn't pop. Yeah, I don't know what that was about. My meter is still not coming up though. It's still showing nothing, whereas the power cord's showing like 5 watts. Let's replug it. There we go. Okay. It is 5 volts, 800 milliamps. That's pretty decent. Yeah, I don't know what just happened there. That was pretty weird. I would like to be able to reproduce whatever just happened so that I can troubleshoot and make sure that doesn't happen again, but I probably can't reproduce that. I don't know how it happened in the first place. You know what? Let's fix the other Game Boy while I'm here. I'm never using this thing for this testing again, so screw it. Butters. It doesn't have any batteries. Okay, I need this. That is very dead. Try that again. So there you go. That's what's going on with my console. For some reason, this button, like it's not being held down. It's just being constantly pressed, because if I press it, you can see it kind of darkens, like it's just flickering beforehand. So my thought process is one of the wires for the backlight kit is probably shorted to something. And I just haven't taken this thing apart once to deal with that. So let's deal with that. Oh my God, is that cracked? Wow. Yeah, it's just pinched because this shell is cracked. I can't think of any other reason it would get pinched, or I can't think of any other reason it would crack if it wasn't pinching wire. Good Lord. How very interesting. It was not pinched. That wire was. Why do you guys let me do this bullshit? Low quality mods that just don't work. Oh my God, look at that. There's a 3D printed bracket in here for centering the screen. I forgot that was a thing. All right, so I think I don't see where that wire would have been shorting. So I don't actually know how to fix that. That's kind of unfortunate. Okay, never mind. There's this wire, but this should be select. I can also just move that over so it's no longer. I don't know what the hell I don't know why this is the way it is. I'm gonna fix it. We're better than this. I'm better than this. Look at this. It's an antique kit. I gotta do it right. Is it normal for an SP with an IPS screen to have a red LED indicator almost always? Bullet 813, my friend Hazi is correct. You need to clean your power switch. That is almost definitely the issue there. Right. shit. This should be routed around the front of the board. Move it back. And look at that. It is twice as long as it needs to be. You guys ever just like audit your old installs and go, God dang, what the hell was I thinking? Because that's what I'm thinking right now. What was that? The R button? Which one is that? The middle one? I think so. I think that's TP8. It's probably TP8. I don't know, someone spot check me. Is the R shoulder button TP8? I'm pretty sure it's TP8. I don't want to get out the voltage meter to check, but I certainly should. Goes down the sphere. I originally did it this way so that I wouldn't have to snip some clearance into that, but there's literally no point in not doing that now, so... If all goes well, I'm never opening this thing up again, so let's do a little bit of this nonsense here. Okay, did I eyeball that properly? Because, of course, I didn't measure that. Oh, that's spot on. Nailed it. All right. One more. Entrepreneur. Stick right there. Cable manage that just like that. We also need to cut some excess off here. Tin that up. Tin that up. All right, that is heaps better. I forgot to run that one through the thing, but that's okay. Look at that. How much cleaner does that look? God, I've been waiting years to do that. Hopefully it fixed my issue too. But I did not see a spot where it was shorting, so... I don't know. The frequency with which it was triggering too was also a little concerning. This console might be getting a motherboard swap. That's all I'm saying. No more battery mod support, but at least the rear is now the correct color. So that's nice. Where's my game? There it goes. Hey, come on. I know you're old and worn out. You should still work better than this. There we go. Hey, look. And now my R button's working properly. That is precisely why I never wanted to take it apart, because I wasn't sure of the specific issue and I didn't want to accidentally fix it. And well, I'm glad it was consistently broken for the duration of my testing. That's all I can say about that. And I'm glad that it is fixed now. All right, let me go review chat because I have been neglecting it. Answer a few more questions, and then I think we're out of here for the evening. Cool. I didn't miss anything. I'm glad that worked out. I know that this mess of a stream was probably a little hard to follow, and I'm gonna apologize for that because of who I am as a person. That's why it was hard. Excuse me, I can't even get through that without hiccuping. Because of who I am as a person. But also because I decided to self-medicate for this stream. But I don't know. I think I got through most of the points I intended to make. I'm gonna go get another beer. I'll be right back. Yeah, man, that ADHD life is a struggle. Oh my god. I just made a mess. That one sprayed a little bit. You can see oops. Oh well. That's my workspace. Who gives a shit? Yeah, Brooks. That ADHD life is rough sometimes. You ever just like get up to do something, like, I don't know, go to the bathroom, but then end up doing the dishes or just like sweep your entire house? Because that's life for me sometimes. And I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle sometimes. I mean, on the flip side, it's like if that didn't happen, my house wouldn't get swept regularly. So I guess it's for the best. But I'd like to be able to like do the thing that I set out to do instead of getting distracted with 8 million other things. Like right now, how I'm walking away to throw something out despite the fact that I'm streaming and don't need to throw this out right this moment. But you know, it was the only thing I could focus on. So now that it's thrown out, I can deal with life. But maybe I should talk to a health professional about that. But anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all I intended to cover. I'm not going to end the stream right this moment, but I'm going to give another few minutes if there are any lingering questions that I have yet to address or cover otherwise. Hit me up, because my plans for this evening involve video games. So, like, I've obviously got nowhere I needed to be. And judging by the fact that there are 45 of you here right now, I'm guessing a lot of you don't have any place you need to be either, so I suppose it's not that big of a deal. I hope you guys are having a fantastic New Year's Eve. I hope you had a fantastic 2023. If not, I hope you have a fantastic 2024. Well, actually, regardless, I hope you have a fantastic 2024. I don't care if your 2023 was good or not. You deserve a good 2024. I don't care what anyone says. Even if your name is Luke, you know who you are. I mean, whatever. Lights, no sense of being on. I have like 8 things I need to charge right now and 1 charger plugged in. So that's cool. I don't feel like getting any other charges. I'm very happy this thing is finally, I can finally put this thing on display, which is where I meant to put it this entire time with all the rest of these Game Boys. I'm so glad to have this off of my to-do list. These away. The hell's this? Did I even open this? Yeah, I did. This was in something. I should put it back in whatever it was in. I think this is in this. Yeah. So I guess it kind of, sort of fits, as long as you don't need to remove it. Oop. Here's my pokey. I don't know. How are you guys feeling? Do you feel you have a better understanding about Game Boy Advance power? Because that was my whole intent with this stream. And if there's anything I can clarify before I go and drink myself silly, please let me know, because I may be unintelligible later. Though, realistically, I'm not going to check my YouTube messages later. Comments. Oh, I set this on my desk as like an honorable mention at some point. This is a original Game Boy battery mod that I had tested out. I don't have a lot good to say about it, but I had it on my desk because I wanted to discuss the power capacity, because this is nominal 7.4 volt battery voltage, but only 1,250 milliamp hours. So if we get out the calculator again, 7.4 times 1.250, that is 9.25 watt hours. So that's like significantly more than 2 AA's. But if we take that and times it by 4, you can see that 4 AA's is almost 12 watt hours. So I don't know. It looks like a big number, but you just get better battery life out of AA's, even with something like this. That's just how the numbers work. So I don't know. If you have one, if like the USB-C convenience is so convenient for you, but I mean, these things kind of have like that whole Apple mouse BS nonsense going on where like this is the battery cover for the console, so you can't like plug it in and just set it down. You have this cable sticking out 90 degrees from the back of the console. It's kind of silly, but I don't know. It does technically work. I was curious about how these would fare long term, because this is 2 batteries in series with 0 balancing. Like you can see, it's just the 2 wires. There's no balancing involved. It's just, you know, they're paired from the factory, and hopefully they don't ever desync, because if they do, fuck you. I don't know. These things are. I think these things are silly. Like we have this foam on the bottom to space it out properly, but then underneath the battery we have all these components because they decided to put them on the top instead of on the bottom, where there was literally extra room that they had to fill in with foam. Like I don't know. This whole thing's just silly. But sure, I guess if you insist, it does work. I'm gonna put this in a bag. Yeah. I don't know. No, I didn't intend. I played with the possibility of doing a standalone video on this thing, but I don't. I think if you're seriously considering something like this, you're not gonna watch a video from me anyway, so good luck, I guess. I don't know. I don't think it's worthwhile. I think it's a waste of money. Can I not put the battery cover in here? I customize it specifically for this. There we go. And now I can throw this in the battery box and never think about it again. With the rest of the battery mods. Oh yeah, I ask questions and then I'm not even looking at chat. Yeah, Lion Star, with one exception to a stream that I have not actually done yet, all of my content goes up as VODs for later viewing. There is a stream that I am tentatively planning. The only one that I intend on deleting the VOD as soon as I'm done, I have not done yet. So that's not this. And the only reason I'm intending on deleting it is because I was thinking maybe we get a little silly and see what happens. But it's also, like, I wasn't planning on doing anything that anyone should ever need to reference for any reason. Like, I was just going to play with Lego and see what happens. But, well, okay. More specifically, I was thinking if I ever plan a stream, I usually set aside like 3 hours to stream, give or take. Even if the stream's not going to take 3 hours, you know, by the time I'm done streaming, cleaning up, and blah blah blah, you know, it's going to be at least 3 hours. But I figure if I ever plan a stream in the future and I end up like finishing all of the content that I planned on in like 20 minutes or something, then I'll just whip out the Lego and we'll just chill, and I'll build one of my Lego kits and we'll have fun. And that won't be a VOD. But everything else, I intend to leave up as a VOD. Oh, straight up, dude. Oh, check this out. I got this thing. Look at that. That's cool. Look at the Wego. 422 piece. Yeah. My sister got it for me for Christmas, and she also got a couple for her daughters, my nieces, and we were going to build all of ours together, but one of them has the flu, so we didn't, and I doubt that's going to happen at this point, and even if it does, I'm an adult and I can just go buy another Lego kit to build with them, so I don't know what to do with it yet, but I was leaning towards stream. Just because fun. But anyway, I think that's about all I've got. Yeah, realistically, I'm never going to have a 20-minute video or a stream. Like, I plan for this shit to take however long. I have outlines mapped out in my head, you know, all of the topics that I want to cover, stuff like that. But then I don't like script these videos. I just kind of turn the camera on and start talking, and then other stuff comes up, and then 20 minutes turns into 120, 80 minutes. Hours are 60 minutes, not 100 minutes. And yeah, you know how it is. But I don't know. I suppose one thing I ought to have mentioned, but then didn't, is some USB-C mods have differently shaped cutouts. I don't have a single one handy. So like some of them are intended that you can put a regular battery door on there and you don't have to do a cutout, and like you can charge it by just pulling the battery door off. I like that. I think that is my preference. But some battery mods are also intended to always be a little bit proud, so that this is not the right battery mod for this battery door, but just, you know, as an example, so that you just plug it in without having to pull the battery door off. Whatever. I suppose it doesn't actually really matter. There are some newer Game Boy Advance shells out there that are shipping with the flat battery doors, and then they ship with just two, or the battery compartment, flat battery compartment, and then they ship with two battery doors. You have the normal one, and then you have the USB Type-C cutout one. I don't know. These are like generic aftermarket shells, but they're fine. I guess I think I still prefer Funny Playings, but like they certainly work. And like these are molded custom for whatever new kit these are supposed to be shipping with. I don't know, but it's neat that the options are there if you want to take advantage of them. How did I lose the battery cover for this thing? Like all of it is still on my desk. Ah, that's the battery cover for this thing. What should we put in here? I could put the retro modding one back in. And then put this door on. The one with the matching sticker, even though it doesn't have a USB-C hole. I don't know. Alright, I gotta get out of here though. Not that I have anything planned, but that one has Ladas, that one has Ladas. I thought I had one more with Ladas in it. That one has Ladas. That one has retro modding. That one also has retro modding. That one has funny playing, and then these two have Zekfu. Excellent. Just whatever your takeaway from this video was, just don't buy the Harbor Freight batteries. Like, they're probably one of the worst options given the alternatives. Yeah, I don't know. This, I genuinely don't remember whose shell this was, but judging by the flat battery compartment, I'm gonna guess it was Funny Playing's. This has got to be one of their early batches. And it was cracked at the screw post, but at some point I think I had something pinched. Because I've never seen any of these shells crack unless you have the screws over tightened or you have something pinched. And given the behavior of the L button on that thing, I'm guessing something was pinched. But who knows? Okay, that's off. That doesn't have a switch, but I can just unplug the battery. Same here. This one I'll just put in something. Excellent. We're good to go. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I don't respond to comments right away, but I do read every single comment that people leave on any video, not just the newest video. I generally check them every 2 to 4 weeks at most, though not often, more frequently, but rarely do I wait longer than that. But anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I will try and assist to the best of my abilities, though that being said, I do not take commissions or repair work or anything like that. So if you want me to help you like fix your Game Boy, sorry about your bad luck, but I don't have time to help everyone who asks me for that kind of help. I don't even have time to do all the stuff I want to do, let alone do all the stuff that other people want me to do too. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to help you. I got to draw the line there for my own personal sanity. But other than that, like conceptual questions, you know, questions about specifics or anything I've said, all fair game. I will, like I said, I read every comment, even if I don't reply to every comment. So if you have any questions, I'll try and get you sorted. In the meantime, the Game Boy Discord, just discord.gg/Gameboy. Not hard to find. It's Game Boy subreddit, also links to it. There are plenty of knowledgeable people, some of them even more knowledgeable than I. You know, if you have any questions, they're a bunch of bright, helpful folks. They'll help you out way sooner than I'll even see the comment. So just throwing that out there. Otherwise, it's been real. I appreciate you all, each and every one of you. I want you to do me a huge favor and make sure that you're thoroughly hydrated and you know you're taking your vitamins, or not. I don't know. I'm not your mom, but take care of yourself. That sort of stuff. And yeah, I'll catch you all next time. It's been real, and next year we're gonna do some even better stuff. We're gonna do some even cooler stuff. And now that I don't have this bullshit hanging over me, probably nothing's gonna change, but at least I'll feel better. So there's that. And thanks for watching, guys. Happy New Year. Catch you all next time. Thanks for hanging out with me, if nothing else.